Hi everyone, welcome to After Class.
A podcast by two passionate adult ballerinas about all things adult ballet related.
And some random thoughts in between.
We're so glad you're here.
So grab your water bottle
or a cup of coffee
and join us for a quick chat after class.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of After Class. Today we are back with part 2 of our conversation about how to know if you are ready to go on pointe. So we are going to jump right in today talking about the mental readiness side of it, and then also practical tips if you are wanting to go on pointe that will help you get ready. So last week we covered the physical readiness checklist and technical readiness. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, we definitely recommend going back and listening to that before listening to part 2. So let's get into it.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
I love the last episode. It was quite good. But this one is going to be the fun part, actually, of this checklist that we've been talking about. So, why the mental readiness checklist? Point work is as much about mindset as it is about being physically and technically ready. Like, I think I mentioned that in last episode. And especially for you, Hannah, having you in this episode, you have the actual experience of getting mentally, physically, and technically ready to get into your point works. And it's a work that we did together for more than a year. So what did you think mentally you had to overcome, or you have to be very mental aware of in order to get ready for your point work?
Yeah, I think when it comes to point work, especially, one of the biggest things that I would say to other adult dancers, and that I'm constantly saying to myself, is allowing your individual journey to be what it is, whatever that timeline looks like. Because I think, especially as adults, we talked about this in the last episode, the older we get, the longer it takes to recover from injuries. It takes a little bit longer just to recover in general, not even from injuries, just from exercise.
Just from a ballet class, to recover from one ballet class.
Just from a ballet class. Takes a little longer. So I think as adults, we really have to allow our own journey to be unique and not be on this predetermined timeline. I think when I first went on pointe, I had a lot of goals, which are great, but they were goals kind of based on not knowing what pointe was actually going to feel like in my body and the obstacles that I was going to encounter. So I think while having goals is very important, I think it's important to, on the flip side, not let your goals frustrate you or make you feel defeated when things aren't happening on the same timeline as maybe a friend of yours or someone that you follow on Instagram, because everyone's journey looks very different. That's a huge part of the mental side. Like, I wish I had had that mindset going in rather than to have to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
So
I would say, yeah, on that topic then, that another thing that you need to check for before you decide to go on point work is, do you have the patience for it? Because you're not going to go straight into point and be like, yay, now I'm going to do fouettes, pirouettes, grand battements, and allegros. Nope. You're going to go to very basic for probably a very long time, just doing relevation first, relevation second, without even going through an échappé. You might be advanced and you might be in this class already doing échappés, but I don't think that that's the actual goal of going into pointe as a beginner. So be patient, because like everything in ballet takes time to build the strength, to build the confidence. So I will say number one is, are you going to have that patience for that?
Yeah, and I think another part of the mental readiness is just assessing your confidence in ballet in general, and also like your confidence in your body. I actually think, I was remembering, I think we did a whole episode where we really talked about like the mental side of pointe and how it is so much about believing that you can do it when you're
exactly
doing things that are scary, because pointe is scary for most adults, because I think when we're kids, we don't have a lot of that same mental block of fear of falling down or getting injured, because we just have that mechanism built in of like, we recover quickly, our bodies bounce back, it's just different. It's a shorter distance to the ground when you're tiny. But now as adults, like this fear is part of our body's way of protecting itself. It's part of like our survival instinct. And so point in a lot of ways is like a direct contradiction to all of your body's natural instincts to protect itself. And so I think the confidence side of that is you have to believe that you can do certain things in order to actually do them. Like if every time you're attempting to go into a passe releve on point, you're just thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, like it's probably not going to go well. Whereas if you think, here we go, I'm doing it, and you do it with confidence, you're probably going to have a higher likelihood of executing. And that part, I think for some reason, I mean, that's a part of really anything in life, but I think it was so much more amplified to me in doing point work. The like, believe that you can. You have to believe that you can do it.
And that takes me into something else that everyone should actually think of. Are you resilient enough to take point classes? Because it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be scary. So are you ready to push through all that? That's the other thing, because you go and you spend the money on your shoes, on your fitting, you did all the training, and then you're like, nah, this is not for me after 2 classes. It's like, no, you need to push because it's definitely fun. It does get better. It gets doable. It does get
Yes.
fun, and it's enjoyable. So you need to have that resilience of, yeah, I'm gonna push through this. It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. It's just gonna be 20 minutes. It's not gonna be 4 hours. You're gonna do it one leg. But are you ready for it though?
Yeah, and I think actually to that point, saying it's just going to be 20 minutes, not 4 hours, I think that's another really good way to think about it when you're starting is the goal when you're starting should not be an hour point class. The goal should be 15 minutes of point. You really need to give your body time to acclimate. And I think that that's something that maybe people don't know or isn't really talked about, that you shouldn't even think, like you shouldn't even put that expectation on yourself of doing a 1 hour class. I think that just accepting that off the bat and setting, I don't want to say making the bar low, because even 50 minutes on point is not what I would consider a low bar, but taking some of the pressure off of like, it's okay to spend 15 minutes in your shoes a few times a week when you're first getting used to them. Because again, going back to like the mental component, I think you're more likely to stick through the journey of point if you are not putting yourself in a position to feel defeated by your own expectations.
Yeah, true. One last thing that you should have in mind and try to like think about what you're trying to see if you're mentally ready for this is, are you ready to really accept feedback and willing to learn new skills? And you're like, yeah, I've been doing ballet. Why wouldn't I not? Well, because the feedback on point should be or could be different from those feedback that you receive in your ballet class. And you're like, oh, but I already had great body alignment. I already had good strength on my legs and my ankles. So why am I receiving all this feedback now on point? Like it shouldn't be. So rather than me like questioning, you should be more mindful of feedbacks are going to be different. There's going to be lots of feedback because you might be doing ballet for 2 years and you don't receive as many feedbacks anymore. But although it's still a ballet class, it's a point ballet class. So you need to be very mindful of there is going to be a new learning process. You are starting from zero again, although you are not a beginner in ballet anymore. So you have to sit down, slow down, and be willing to learn and to accept feedback from the teachers. So are you ready to do that? Then you might be ready to go on point.
Yeah, it's humbling for sure. Going on point, especially like you said, if you've been taking class for a couple of years and you're feeling like you're at a certain level of competence not on point, and then you go on point and you feel like Bambi, how my legs, like what's happening? They feel like little bricks on your feet. They feel like these weird foreign objects, and you're just like, why do I feel like a baby deer right now? I think that you definitely have to, as you said, be ready almost to regress a little bit in your own mind, because your levels in and out of point shoes are going to be really different for a while. You know, things that you feel like you've gotten a fair amount of confidence in doing, suddenly you're doing them in point shoes. Like I think of what immediately comes to mind is doing rond de jambe in point shoes versus doing them in slippers. And doing a rond de jambe in slippers is like, oh yeah, no problem. And then you start trying to do a rond de jambe in a point shoe and you're like, why is this so hard?
Even more basic than that, do a first position on flats on the center. Change your shoes and do a first position with point, and you'll be like, what is going on? I'm all wobbly, my arches are dropping, my glutes are not engaging. What's going on?
Yeah.
Balancing on a flat position with points on without getting into the point work, just trying to control the first, the second, or the third position. It's as challenging as doing an arabesque on point. Like, it's so hard.
I know. There's been times where I've like standing in my point shoes, and I feel like if someone sneezed next to me, I would probably fall over. That's how unstable, like when I was very first getting used to them. It's a lot better now, but when I was first getting used to them, I was like, a light breeze would knock me over right now.
Oh my gosh.
So, gosh.
Now, let's quickly sum up everything we talked in episode 1 and 2 before we go to our practical tips to get ready. Now, you make sure that you are physically ready. Make sure that you're technically ready. Have that quick checklist. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? That we talked in first episode. And now, mentally, can you really push through? Can you really accept feedback? Now let's talk about the fun part, the fun of the practical tips that you can use to get ready. I will say that maybe 4 different tips. One would be work with a trusted teacher, incorporate training, consider pre-point classes. Even though you're already working on point, keep going with pre-point exercises. Then invest in a fitting and be patient. Now, why to work with a trusted teacher? Let's be realistic. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you just look at what you want to see. You don't see the worst or the bad or the good. At least me, when I look at myself in the mirror, the day that I actually look at myself is I just want to see myself cute and pretty. I don't want to look at anything else. Even my hair is a mess. It's the reality. So try to work with a trusted teacher. It doesn't need to be every day, every week, but once you've done all this research by yourself of the physical, practical, mental, then try to find a teacher that can actually say, yeah, that you're in the right track. Or, oh yeah, I think you're ready. I will say that's not negotiable.
Yeah.
Incorporating a strength exercises. A strength and flexibility, you have to incorporate that to get ready to go to point.
Yeah, that is so important because it really does just demand even more of your body, even if you're taking multiple ballet classes a week. It's just a different level of strength, and certain muscles you're using differently, more. So strength training is so important for point work.
What can you do by yourself before you even start considering going to a professional strength trainer? Releves in parallel, in first position, second position, with turnout, without turnout. You can do third band exercises. There are plenty of them on the internet. Try to work a little bit on stretching and flexibility of your foot. A lot of mobility of those ankles, point and flex, even with or without the third band. It's great. Don't forget to incorporate core strength. We talked about that in episode 1. It's 100% guaranteeing you that your point work is going to go to another level if you make sure that your core is engaged.
Yeah.
And any overall conditioning that you can do, anything, even glutes strengthening exercises.
Yeah, it's so funny. Sometimes especially if I haven't done point, if I've had to take a break for whatever reason and I go back to doing point, almost every time the thing that is the most sore is my glutes. I don't know if that's just a me thing.
Squeezing hard. I don't want to.
And it's like a very particular spot on my glutes. It's like the leotard line. It's like that under glute.
But it's interesting because those are the ones that are engaging into controlling hip rotation. And that hip rotation is literally connected to dropping those arches forward. So as soon as you lift your arch, you start rotating the hips and you need to engage those lower glute muscles in order to keep that. So it does make a lot of sense.
It's like that tweezing feeling, pulling in at the base of the glutes. It's like, whew.
Yeah. The next tip, if you decide that you want to go on point, even us as a professionals, we do point classes and we still keep doing our pre-point conditioning. Yeah, so one thing is doing a strength training, another one is specific pre-point classes. That would be a little bit more focused on certain muscles. For instance, something that I found really interesting that I wasn't aware of it until last year, which my God, so sorry for this, is my students were asked as the physio assessed them, they were asked to point without crunching, or I don't know which word.
Curling without
Curling
your
the
toes.
toes. They were asked to point just by using the arch and trying to keep their toes as long and elongated and flat as possible. So those are exercises that you actually need to hear from a professional. That could be a ballet teacher or it could be a physio. There are certain specific pre-point exercises that you need to incorporate into your strength and conditioning.
I think too, another tip that you mentioned earlier that is so important is to get a fitting, because I know now I've seen the viral videos online that you can get point shoes on
Anywhere,
Amazon.
every color.
What's that other cheap website, Wish, where people are getting point shoes that they should absolutely not be getting point shoes. And that is a big red flag. No, you should definitely go to a fitter.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what you were saying about having a teacher watching you, that there are certain things that they know to look for. It's the exact same thing with a fitter. There are certain things that they know to look for. You know, when you go to a fitting, they'll have you try on different shoes and go up on releve and go into some different positions, and they'll see how the shoe fits on your foot, and if it's breaking in the right position, if it's squeezing you too much in certain places. And so that is so important, and so important if you can, to go to a fitter with experience that has good training and is reputable, because a fitter can make or break your introduction to point. Starting point in shoes that are super uncomfortable and don't fit you properly is not the way that you want to start.
Yeah, definitely. So those are few points that at the end of the day you're gonna be looking at. So are you ready for point work as an adult? The answer is very personal. You need to go over and consider if you are really physically ready, if you are technically confident, if you are mentally strong to push and really support yourself and like, yes, I can do it. If all those things you think that you can really go through it and have them all ticked and ready, then go for your practical training. Go for it. It will be worth it the whole journey for sure.
It's so fun. It's so rewarding. Like, if you've had a dream to go on point forever, I don't know. To me, I always say, like, I would rather try it and find out that maybe I don't like it that much than have the regret of never trying and never knowing.
What if?
Yeah, I think a lot of adults as kids, you know, they had a dream of wanting to go on point. And I think if you're blessed with a body that functions and 2 legs, go for it. You know, I think it's something that I saw a thing online today where someone said, you're the youngest you're gonna be today.
Oh, so yeah.
Might as well start today. And I'm like, yeah, that's so true.
It's never too late to go for it.
Mm-mm.
You can actually go for what you want now. And with the right dedication, with the right guidance, and with commitment, point work can absolutely be part of your journey. There's not question of it.
I think I mentioned at the end of the first episode, but I'll mention it again. If you're in a situation where you train primarily online, like pre-recorded YouTube, and you don't have a teacher that you know of that can assess your readiness, Yelena is available for that. She was the one that has guided my whole journey, because I actually have yet to find in-person adult point classes near me. I go to in-person technique classes, but we don't have adult point at my studio. So Yelena has guided that journey for me. So she's there for you on that side. I'm here for you, cheering you on as a fellow adult dancer who is navigating the ups and downs of the point journey and the timeline and all of the things. So if you need any support, encouragement, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and she's definitely been through the entire process. So trust that Hannah can definitely give you the best feedbacks. And she might be the one that said, you know what? Get away from ballet now if you can. It's not too late. Just get away from it.
The only reason that I would say that to anybody is because of the damage that doing point does to your wallet.
Oh, well, or your husband wallet.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, it is a new line on the budget for point shoes and point training. So
Definitely.
We hope this episode, or both of these episodes, since it was a 2-part, were helpful for you guys. And if you were able to run through this checklist and you feel like you are ready, we are here for you, cheering you on, and it is a super gratifying thing to jump into.
Have a lovely day. We're going to see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to After Class.
Join the community on YouTube and Instagram, or come dance with us, our weekly Zoom classes for adult ballerinas like you.
Links included in the episode description. Special thank you to our sponsors.
See you next time after class. Podcast produced by Mission Bridge Media.